What would you do if you found your best caregiver weeping in the staff lounge, 16 hours into a shift, because no one came to help her? This is the moment our CEO never expected to witness, and it changed everything. Sarah Davids built Elder Care Haven from a single facility into a respected national chain, founded on the principle of dignity and compassionate care for every resident. Elder Care Haven was her life's work, her pride. Lately, though, something felt wrong. The quarterly reports painted a rosy picture, but a different story was emerging from the ground. An alarming rise in resident complaints. Things like unanswered call lights, cold meals, and lonely evenings. Families, once grateful, were now expressing rising concerns, their voices tinged with worry and accusation. And the staff turnover? It was hitting critical levels, a revolving door that hinted at a deeper rot than the numbers showed. Sarah's regional managers, polished and professional, kept assuring her it was just transitional issues, maybe a few disgruntled employees. But their dismissals felt hollow against the persistent whispers she was hearing through her network. Whispers of burnout, understaffing, and a system stretched to its breaking point. Her gut screamed that the truth was being hidden. Frustrated, a knot of cold dread tightening in her stomach, Sarah knew she couldn't trust the reports anymore. She had to see it with her own eyes. The decision was drastic, risky, but necessary. Sarah Davids, the CEO, would disappear. In her place, an intern nursing assistant would arrive at a facility tucked away in a different state, far from the corporate gaze, a place where she was just a face in the crowd, ready to uncover the truth, no matter how painful. Sarah looked in the mirror and didn't recognize herself. Gone was the sharp suit, the perfectly styled hair, the confident CEO. In their place stood a woman in ill-fitting generic scrubs, her hair pulled back messily, comfortable sneakers laced tight, chosen for practicality, not style. She'd deliberately chosen a name that wasn't hers, practiced a slightly different way of speaking. This wasn't Sarah Davids. This was Jane, the new intern, invisible, hopefully unrecognized. The transformation was complete. Sarah took a deep breath and walked out. The front door of the Elder Care Haven facility swung open, and an immediate, heavy quiet settled over Sarah. The lobby was clean, almost sterile, but lacked warmth. As she moved deeper inside, the air itself felt tired. The sterile scent of disinfectant couldn't mask the faint, underlying smells of neglect. She saw the residents, some sitting idly in wheelchairs, others staring blankly ahead, a few trying to catch the eye of a passing caregiver. And the staff, their faces told a story the corporate reports never would. Shoulders slumped, eyes distant, movements rushed and jerky. Sarah's CEO instincts immediately went into overdrive, trying to piece together the puzzle. She saw a call light blinking persistently down a hallway, seemingly ignored. She overheard a brief, sharp exchange between two harried-looking assistants about being slammed and swamped. The conversations were curt, functional, devoid of the compassionate chatter that should fill a place like this. This wasn't just busy, this was overwhelming. And then she saw her. Standing by a resident's door, patiently adjusting a blanket, was Maria. Her eyes held a kindness that hinted at a deep well of compassion, but they were also shadowed with exhaustion. Even from a distance, Sarah could see the subtle tremble in her hands, the way she leaned against the doorframe for just a second too long. As Maria moved on, juggling a tray of medications in one hand and a pile of clean laundry in the other, Sarah knew. This was the heart of the place, trying to carry the weight of a system that was failing. Maria was clearly running on empty, with no sign of a real break in sight. Sarah's mission just became personal. Sarah, now Jane, attached herself to Maria like a shadow, observing every interaction, every task. The routine of a nursing home day unfolded, assisting with meals, helping with dressing, answering calls. But beneath the surface, the cracks were starting to show. Sarah's heart ached as she overheard a distraught daughter asking a hurried aide, "Has someone checked on Mom? I called an hour ago, and her light is still on," only to be met with a curt, "Ma'am, we're doing our best. There are only two of us on this wing." The frustration from family members wasn't just a complaint. It was raw worry for their loved ones. Between rooms, Sarah caught brief, tense whispers between Maria and another aide, their voices low and stressed. "Did you get Mr. Henderson washed?" "I couldn't, literally no time," one side rubbing her temples. Maria responded with quiet weariness. "I'll try to circle back," but Mrs. Gable fell again, and we're still short-staffed. It was clear they weren't just busy. They were making impossible choices between essential tasks, constantly prioritizing urgent over important because there simply weren't enough hands. Sarah saw tiny, telling signs of corners being cut due to sheer exhaustion. A resident's hair not quite combed through, a rushed transfer that lacked the usual gentle care, a skipped moment of conversation that meant the world to a lonely elderly person. These weren't malicious oversights. They were the desperate acts of people pushed beyond their limits. Through it all, Maria was a beacon. She spoke to residents with genuine warmth, her smile the only source of light in some dim rooms. She remembered personal details, held hands, offered words of comfort. She was everything Elder Care Haven was supposed to be. But even Maria's reservoir of strength was running dry. As the hours wore on, Sarah watched her movements slow. That weary slump in her shoulders deepened. Sarah caught her in the hallway, eyes squeezed shut for just a second, taking a shaky breath. Later, while assisting a resident who finally drifted off to sleep, Sarah saw Maria turn her back, her body rigid, and saw the undeniable glint of unshed tears before Maria quickly wiped them away, forcing a tired smile back on her face. She was breaking, and Sarah knew, with a chilling certainty, that the worst was yet to come. The clock in the hallway seemed to mock Maria. 16 hours. 16 hours since her shift began. 16 hours of constant motion, of putting on a brave face, of caring for others while her own body screamed for rest. Her relief was supposed to be here hours ago. Every time the door opened, Maria's tired eyes flickered with a desperate hope that was instantly extinguished. The dread settled heavy. No one was coming. Sarah, feeling the same dragging exhaustion from shadowing Maria, saw the moment the realization hit. Maria's shoulders slumped, and her pace slowed even further. She excused herself, muttering something about needing a moment. Sarah followed quietly, her heart pounding. From just outside the barely closed break room door, Sarah heard it, a sound that chilled her to the bone. Quiet, ragged sobbing. Maria's voice, brittle and broken, filtered through the gap. "I can't do this anymore." She whispered, the words thick with tears. "They promised someone would come. I need to go home. I'm so tired." Then, another voice cut in, sharp and devoid of empathy. It was Brenda, the nursing manager Sarah had observed earlier, a woman who seemed to view compassion as an inefficiency. "Oh, for heaven's sake, Maria," Brenda said, her tone dripping with impatience. "Pull yourself together. It's part of the job. Long shifts happen. If you can't handle the pressure, maybe you're not cut out for this kind of work. We have residents who need care, not staff crying in the break room." Sarah's blood ran cold. Not cut out for this. Maria, the most dedicated, compassionate caregiver she'd seen all day, being spoken to like this? The corporate veneer Sarah had so carefully constructed, it shattered. The CEO reemerged, fueled by righteous fury. She pushed the break room door open, stepping inside. Maria flinched, quickly wiping her eyes, her face a mask of shame and exhaustion. Brenda glared, annoyed by the interruption. "Can I help you, Jane?" she snapped. Sarah ignored her for a second, looking at Maria. Her face was pale, streaked with tears, exhaustion etched deep into every line. Is everything okay?" Sarah asked, keeping her voice low and kind, using her intern persona, but her eyes held a steel Brenda clearly didn't recognize. Brenda bristled. "Everything is fine." Maria was just having a little moment. She turned back to Maria. "Now, where were we?" "Pathetic displays, don't." "She's been here for 16 hours, Sarah interrupted, her voice gaining strength, echoing slightly in the small room. 16 hours straight, because her relief never showed up. And you're telling her she's not cut out for the job? Brenda's eyes narrowed. Listen, Jane, you're new here. You don't understand how things work. Staffing is complex, and frankly, this is none of your business. Actually, Sarah said, taking a step further into the room, her posture straightening, the meek intern disappearing with every word. When someone is working 16 hours straight, putting the well-being of vulnerable residents ahead of their own basic needs, and is then dismissed and belittled for showing the strain. That actually is my business. The air crackled with tension. Maria stared at Sarah, bewildered. Brenda looked ready to explode, her face darkening. The manager opened her mouth to deliver another cutting remark, but Sarah cut her off, her voice now carrying the unmistakable weight of authority, a prelude to the storm about to break. This was the moment, the breaking point. The air in the small break room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Brenda, the manager, glared at Sarah, her face contorted in anger and disbelief. "Who the hell do you think you are?" she spat, taking a menacing step forward. "Coming in here, interfering, you're just an intern. You have no idea." "Oh, I think I have a very good idea." Sarah's voice cut through Brenda's bluster, clear and steady, carrying a weight that made Brenda stop in her tracks. Sarah took another deliberate step forward, no longer the meek Jane. Her shoulders were back, her chin was up, the tired intern facade completely gone, replaced by the commanding presence of a CEO. She looked directly at Brenda, her eyes cold and hard. "Do you really want to know who I am, Brenda?" Sarah paused, letting the question hang in the suddenly silent room. Maria looked from Sarah to Brenda, her eyes wide with confusion and exhaustion. Sarah lowered her voice slightly, but it lost none of its power. "My name isn't Jane. Not really." She reached up and, with a slow, deliberate motion, pulled off the temporary name tag that read Jane. She dropped it onto the table with a soft clatter. "For the past day," she continued, her gaze sweeping from Brenda to the tear-streaked face of Maria, and then to any other staff member who had drifted closer, drawn by the commotion, "I've been watching and listening. I've seen the understaffing, the rushed care, the ignored call lights. I've heard the frustrated families and the desperate whispers of overworked staff." She pointed a firm finger at Brenda. "And I just witnessed a dedicated caregiver who has worked 16 hours nonstop to pick up the slack from your failures, crying from pure exhaustion, being told she's not cut out for the job by management." Sarah's voice rose again, filling the small room, pulling the attention of anyone within earshot. "Brenda, you asked who I am." Sarah's eyes locked onto the manager's, delivering the final blow. "My name is Sarah Davids, and I am the CEO of Elder Care Haven." Absolute silence fell over the break room. Brenda's florid face drained of all color, her jaw dropping open in stunned disbelief. Maria gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, tears welling up again, but this time from shock, not sadness. Any staff members nearby froze, operations grinding to a halt as the impossible reality sank in. The quiet was profound, broken only by the ragged sound of Maria's breathing and the frantic pounding of Sarah's own heart. The facade was down, the truth was out, and everyone knew, in that single, electrifying moment, that everything was about to change. The shock in the break room was a physical force. Brenda stood frozen, her face a mask of pure terror. Maria, bless her, finally sank into a chair, breathing heavily, still trying to process what had just happened. Sarah didn't waste another second. The quiet CEO was gone. The decisive leader was back, her voice ringing with authority. "Maria," she said, turning with compassion to the exhausted caregiver, "go home, right now. Get some rest. You are a hero, and you deserve so much better. We will talk later, but your shift is over." No arguments. Maria, tears still clinging to her lashes, could only nod, too stunned to protest, slowly getting up. Sarah then turned her gaze back to Brenda, her expression hardening. "Brenda," she stated, her voice low and firm, "gather all facility management in this office immediately. HR will be joining us via video conference in 15 minutes. This facility is under immediate review." There was no room for negotiation, no possibility of defiance. Brenda, pale and trembling, simply nodded numbly and hurried out to comply, the weight of her impending reality crashing down. Sarah, her mind already racing through solutions, walked quickly to the facility office. She didn't sit behind the large desk. She stood in front of it, a force of nature about to reshape this broken system. As the bewildered managers and a few other key staff filtered in, their faces a mixture of shock and apprehension, Sarah began to speak. "What I have witnessed here over the past day is unacceptable," she declared, her voice resonating with controlled fury. "Understaffing has created a dangerous environment for our residents and is burning out our dedicated staff. The lack of adequate shift coverage, the disregard for employee well-being, and the presence of toxic leadership are betraying everything Elder Care Haven is supposed to stand for." She didn't mince words. "Effective immediately, we are launching a full investigation into staffing levels, scheduling practices, and management oversight at this facility. There will be immediate staffing changes to ensure proper coverage. No caregiver will work a 16-hour shift again due to lack of relief." Her eyes found Maria, who hovered uncertainly near the door before Sarah had insisted she leave. Support will be provided to Maria and any other staff member who has been subjected to unreasonable conditions or poor treatment. Within hours, the news was spreading like wildfire, not just within the facility, but reaching residents and their families. Sarah personally drafted communications, clear and direct, informing everyone of the undercover findings and the subsequent actions being taken. She promised transparency, accountability, and a renewed commitment to providing the high-quality, compassionate care they deserved and expected. It was a seismic shift, a promise of real change echoing through the weary halls. The fallout had begun, and Sarah Davids was just getting started. The initial wave of shock had subsided, replaced by a fragile sense of hope and disbelief. After the whirlwind of immediate action, the tense meeting with management, the swift dismissal of Brenda, the calls to HR, Sarah sought out the people who had been bearing the brunt of the system's failure. The facility was still humming, but there was a different energy, a cautious optimism replacing the weary resignation. Sarah found Maria sitting quietly in the now-empty break room, a cup of cold tea in her hands, looking utterly drained but no longer crying. Another caregiver, a kind-faced woman named Linda, who had also worked a double shift recently, sat nearby, hesitant but curious. Sarah walked over and sat opposite Maria, her own exhaustion momentarily forgotten. She didn't start with corporate jargon. She simply looked at Maria, her eyes filled with genuine empathy. "Maria," Sarah began softly, quietly, I don't have adequate words for what I witnessed you go through. Nobody should ever be put in that position. I'm so deeply sorry." Maria looked up, her eyes still red-rimmed, but now holding a flicker of surprise. "Ms. Davids, I didn't know. Please, call me Sarah," the CEO said gently. "And you weren't supposed to know. I needed to see the truth, unfiltered. And what I saw, what you endured, it opened my eyes in a way nothing else could. You worked 16 hours, Maria. 16 hours fueled by nothing but your dedication and empathy for the residents. I saw you caring for them, heard you comforting them, even when you were clearly breaking inside." Linda spoke up tentatively, her voice thick with emotion. "It's been like this for a while. We try. We really do. But there's just not enough of us. And the schedules, they change constantly. We barely see our own families." Sarah listened intently, nodding, letting them speak without interruption. She heard the quiet desperation in their voices, the sheer physical and emotional toll the understaffing had taken. They spoke of skipped breaks, missed family events, the constant worry that they weren't providing the level of care the residents deserved because they were simply spread too thin. When they finished, Sarah met their gazes. "I hear you," she said, her voice firm with sincerity. "Every word. Your experiences, your sacrifices, they are valid. They are real. And I am truly grateful for your unwavering commitment to our residents, even under these impossible conditions. You have been holding this place together with sheer willpower and heart, and that will no longer go unrecognized or unsupported." She leaned forward slightly, her tone shifting from somber acknowledgement to determined promise. "This stops now. I am committed to bringing in more support, meaning more staff and fast. We will fix the scheduling, making it consistent and fair, ensuring you all get proper rest and time away. You'll have the resources you need to do your jobs safely and effectively." Sarah looked directly at Maria and Linda, then addressed the understanding that was spreading through the room. "And crucially, your incredible commitment and hard work will be recognized, not just with words, but with tangible actions. You are the lifeblood of Elder Care Haven, and my priority from this moment forward is ensuring that the people who care for our residents are cared for themselves." This wasn't just an undercover mission anymore. This was personal, and the change started with these honest, vulnerable conversations. Sarah Davids didn't just make promises in that break room. She delivered. The investigation was swift and thorough, confirming the systemic failures she had witnessed. Brenda and other negligent managers who had fostered the toxic environment were gone. In their place, Sarah brought in a compassionate new facility manager, a leader known for their empathy and commitment to both staff and residents. The changes weren't just structural, they were human. Sarah personally oversaw the implementation of a better shift scheduling system, one that respected boundaries, ensured consistent coverage, and eliminated the brutal back-to-back shifts that had driven Maria to tears. Regular wellness check-ins became a standard practice, creating a space for staff to voice concerns and feel seen and heard. Crucially, Elder Care Haven made a significant investment where it mattered most, in its people. Additional caregiving staff were hired, carefully vetted individuals passionate about elder care, ensuring that staffing ratios allowed for quality attention to every resident, reducing the crushing workload and preventing the burnout that had plagued the facility. Call lights were answered promptly, meals were served with care, and there was finally time for those quiet moments of connection that meant so much to the residents. The transformation wasn't overnight, but it was palpable. Under the new leadership, supported and valued, the existing staff's attitude and morale visibly improved. The exhaustion began to lift, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose and shared commitment. This positive shift rippled outwards. The attitude among residents improved, their anxiety easing as they received more attentive care and saw happier faces around them. Families noticed the difference too, their complaints fading, replaced by sighs of relief and words of gratitude. The quiet despair that had hung over the facility began to dissipate, replaced by the warmth and dignity that Elder Care Haven had been founded upon. True, lasting change had arrived. Looking back, Sarah Davids realized the most important reports weren't the spreadsheets in her office, but the silent stories etched on the faces of her staff. This journey wasn't about catching villains. It was about understanding the human cost of neglect. It's a powerful reminder. Leadership isn't about numbers. It's about people, especially those on the front lines, caring for our most vulnerable. When those who dedicate their lives to caring for others are truly supported, everyone thrives. The residents receive the attention they deserve. The staff finds joy and dignity in their work, and the fundamental promise of compassionate care is honored. Never ignore the silent struggles of others. Sometimes the biggest problems hide just beneath the surface. And sometimes real, profound change starts with one person having the courage to look, to listen, and to act.